Good morning, and welcome to AI Daily for Monday, July 13th, 2026. I'm your host, and here's what's driving the AI world after a weekend that turned into a courtroom drama. Apple has sued OpenAI. The two companies that once teamed up to put ChatGPT inside your iPhone are now facing off in federal court over allegations of stolen trade secrets. We'll unpack that fight in full, then hit a billion-dollar chip raise. OpenAI's new agent that does your work for you, a surprising new advisor at the Federal Reserve, and a record-shattering debut on the Nasdaq. Let's get into it. The headline this Monday is a stunning reversal. On Friday, July 10th, Apple filed a 41-page lawsuit against OpenAI in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, accusing the AI lab of stealing its trade secrets to build unreleased AI hardware. Apple says the scheme ran, in its words, at every level, from members of technical staff all the way up to OpenAI's chief hardware officer. The most eye-catching detail: Apple claims more than 400 of its former employees now work at OpenAI, and that some job candidates were even told to bring actual Apple parts to their interviews. Remember, these two were partners just last year, when ChatGPT was built into the iPhone's operating system. That alliance has now collapsed into one of the biggest legal brawls in tech. We break down exactly what Apple alleges and how OpenAI is firing back in our company's segment next. Let's go deeper on that lawsuit. Apple's complaint names not just OpenAI, but its hardware subsidiary, called I/O Products, along with Chief Hardware Officer Tang Tan, a former Apple vice president, and Chang Liu, a former senior electrical engineer. Apple alleges that Liu, who left in January, held onto his company laptop and exploited an unknown authentication flaw to keep downloading confidential engineering and manufacturing files after his departure. Apple also claims Tan coached candidates to share secrets and evade security. OpenAI is pushing back hard. A spokesperson said the company has no interest in other companies' trade secrets and remains focused on building technology that empowers people everywhere. The backdrop matters here. OpenAI moved into hardware after buying former Apple designer Johnny Ive's startup for $6.4 billion, and it is reportedly working on its first device. Even Elon Musk weighed in, and analysts are calling this a sign of how aggressively OpenAI is now colliding with the biggest names in tech. This one will run for a long time. Away from the courtroom, the money keeps pouring into AI chips. SambaNova, a Silicon Valley startup building an alternative to NVIDIA's accelerators, has closed the first tranche of a $1 billion Series F round, valuing the company at $11 billion post-money. The round is led by General Atlantic, with heavyweight backers including T. Rowe Price, Capital Group, BlackRock Funds, Intel Capital, and Qatar's Sovereign Wealth Fund. It comes just 5 months after SambaNova's last mega round, and lands alongside word that JP Morgan Chase has picked the company to power secure, on-premise AI inference. Zoom out, and this fits a staggering trend. According to PitchBook, U.S. venture funding hit $412 billion in the first half of 2026, and AI companies took roughly $356 billion of that, about 86 cents of every venture dollar. The appetite for anything that can challenge NVIDIA or feed the compute boom shows no sign of cooling. Now to a product that is quietly reshaping how people use AI at work. Last week, OpenAI launched ChatGPT Work, and it is more than a chatbot. You hand it an outcome, and it gathers information across your connected apps, breaks the job into steps, and works on it independently for hours, returning finished spreadsheets, slides, documents, and even interactive web apps, rather than a wall of chat. At the same time, OpenAI merged its Codex coding tool into a single, unified desktop app for Mac and Windows that puts chat, work, and Codex together, and it is available on every plan, including the free tier. The whole thing runs on the new GPT 5.6 family. It is a clear signal of where the industry is heading. away from chat that answers questions and toward agents that actually complete the work. If it delivers as promised, this is the kind of shift office workers will feel directly. In policy, the Federal Reserve is bringing Silicon Valley into the room where interest rates get decided. Under new chair Kevin Warsh, the Fed has named venture capitalist Marc Andreessen, co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz, to co-lead a new productivity and jobs task force. Its mandate is to assess the economic impact of general-purpose technologies, including artificial intelligence, to inform the Fed's policy judgments. Andreessen will co-lead alongside a Stanford economist currently on leave at Anthropic and a Microsoft executive, with recommendations due by the end of 2026. It is a striking move because it puts one of AI's loudest boosters directly into the process that shapes monetary policy. Supporters say the Fed needs to understand how AI reshapes jobs and productivity. Critics note that Andreessen and Warsh are longtime friends, raising questions about independence. Either way, it signals that AI is no longer just a tech story. It is now a macroeconomic one. To the markets, and a reminder that these are Friday's closing figures, since U.S. exchanges were shut over the weekend. The standout event was SK Hynix's blockbuster Nasdaq debut. The South Korean memory chip giant, which controls roughly 60% of the high-bandwidth memory market that AI accelerators depend on, raised about $26.5 billion in American depository receipts, the largest U.S. share sale ever by a foreign company, surpassing Alibaba's 2014 record. Priced at $149, the shares jumped about 13% on debut, after orders covered the offering 7 times over. On the big tech board, Meta was the star, closing up nearly 6% as investors cheered its new Meta Compute Cloud business and a $9 billion data center in Alberta, Canada. NVIDIA rose about 4% to close above $210, keeping it near the $5 trillion mark. As always, we report the numbers and the reasons, and we give zero investment advice. Finally, what to watch in the days ahead. All eyes turn to Thursday, July 17th, when Google DeepMind is expected to launch Gemini 3.5 Pro into general availability. After a rebuild that pushed the date back by weeks, the model reportedly carries a 2 million token context window, double anything in the current frontier field, with its deep think reasoning mode gated behind a $250 a month Ultra subscription. If those numbers hold, it directly challenges OpenAI's GPT 5.6 and Anthropic's frontier models. And keep an eye on the Apple versus OpenAI fight, where OpenAI's formal legal response and any move toward the courtroom will be the next chapter. That's all for today. Thank you for spending part of your Monday with AI Daily. If this briefing helped you make sense of the day, subscribe and come back tomorrow. Until then, stay curious. AI Daily. Every day, the AI world in 8 minutes. All content is AI generated. See you tomorrow.